Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H Event Space. Today, you are tuned into the quest for wedding film mastery part 5. 5, we're on 5 already. Today, we're talking about sound sages. This is, of course, hosted by Sony, and I'd like to welcome the wonderful duo, Amber and Garrette Baird. Guys, what's going on?
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Derek.
much.
We are so excited to be here today. We are halfway through.
Halfway
This
through.
is halfway mark. Wild. 5 more to go after today. So I hope people are having a good time learning what we're offering. And that we spoke about last week that this is one of the non-sexy parts. So
It's not sexy, but it's very important.
super important.
It is essential. Sound makes video.
1
That's it.
million percent. 1 million.
Well, I'm kind of curious to see how not sexy, because I think sound is very sexy.
Okay,
The
good.
very fact that it's essential means it's sexy. And when you don't have sexy sound, you know it right away. And when you have sexy sound, no one realizes how important it is because we don't think about good sound.
Says the
Absolutely.
man with the sexy tones.
Hey now. All right, I'll let you guys get to it. I will remind all of our viewers watching on YouTube, if you guys do have any questions at all, feel free to drop them into the live chat there, and I'll send it over to the duo over here. And guys, I'll see you in a bit for the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Derek. We really appreciate it. We are so excited about today's uh, podcast. And let me get started here with getting my screen share. Do you want to talk to the audience real
Yeah,
quick?
so audio, when we first started out, at least, the easiest thing for us to do, and this is before we knew much about things like how important lighting can be, bringing your own light, how important adding audio and having a solid recording can be. We just went into a situation and we kind of just made a music video, and you know what? We did pretty good with those. It was just a lot of emotion. We let the emotion and the energy of the song kind of edited to that and used just the song as just the whole video. So there wasn't any vows in it. There wasn't any toast. It was just a lot of either like sad or fun music. Not really sad music, but like a lower
Romantic.
slower paced music. Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, we use sad music in our weddings. That's how we roll. It's really like dark, sad,
Okay.
emo.
Well, maybe we have at one point. Maybe I love to give Garrett challenges because, like, when you've been doing this for so long, you get bored. So maybe you should edit something to
Doing
edit
sad wedding.
a wedding film. I don't know, man.
And, okay, maybe I'll take
Maybe
somebody.
November Rain. That's a sad wedding video.
That would
If
be,
you've
yeah.
ever seen one. Okay.
But that's really easy. Like that's a good place to start because you
100%.
get acclimated to editing chops and how to cut to music and cut to different emotional parts of the soundtrack. So if you're doing that, that's great. That's cool. That's a great place to start. But when you want to take it up another step, you start adding things like, you start miking the priest or the whoever's marrying them,
Officiant,
the
yeah.
officiant. You start miking the groom. You start miking the people and recording the toast and integrating that. And then you take it a step further. You start adding Foley sounds, which we'll get into in a minute. But it really just rises the production value and gives the viewer so much more information than just basically a pretty slideshow with one clip after another to music. I mean, it's great, but it's in essence, it's kind of just a music video slideshow, so to speak. So we're going to show you today how you can start by integrating those elements to make your videos even better.
Yes. So here in the wedding the quest for wedding film mastery sound sages. This is part 5, even though it said part 4 on the last slide. You didn't see that. As you know, we are Amber and Garrette from Eyenamics. We are filmmakers who have been filming weddings together for over 20 years, and we just love doing it. So today we were talking, this is one of Garrett's, like, he loved making this slide. Whenever, I think it was the first time we talked about audio.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is very cool.
DJ Stormtrooper in the house.
DJ Stormtrooper. So I pulled the quote today from our, I want to say our leader, George Lucas.
Yep.
Sound is half the picture. He literally says it. Sound is half of the picture. And like Garrett
Absolutely.
says, it gives you clues about what's going on in the story. It drives the story, music, all of these elements come in to make it an enjoyable experience. And if you don't have good sound, you don't have a good video. That's just the bottom line.
Because how many times have you tried to watch, or I've tried to watch a YouTube video, and they could be using the best camera, like shooting in 6K, 8K, or whatever, but then they're just using on-camera mics, or maybe they don't know how to configure their lapel mic, and it just sounds really bad and echoey. You're not going to watch that.
I click right off of it. Even if it's even if it's something not having to do with image making, like I love to watch like makeup tutorials and things like that and reviews of products and stuff. And it's like, I can't even hardly watch it. So sound is half of the picture. So you have to take this just as seriously as you take your gear for image making. All right, so this is one of our films that has, I chose this one because it does have quite a bit of Foley like sound effects in it, and it was really fun for Garrett to put together. This one, you can find it on
Is it
Instagram.
the shorter version?
Yes.
Okay.
I forgot how good that video was.
That one, I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty hot edit.
Ooh,
Pat me on the back. Pat me on the back. That's pretty good.
that's a good edit. Another really fun thing is that bride, her dad owns that venue, so that's always also pat on the back to us. But that's not what it's about. That was a really fun wedding, but you have to think about like on Instagram, if you want to do a really narrative story driven film, even if it's a highlight or a 1 minute on Instagram, a lot of people don't even watch with sound on Instagram. So
Right.
sometimes Garrett likes to not use spoken word on those Instagram highlights because he feels like it makes their longer feature a little more special since they don't hear the audio before that.
It's like a prequel,
Yeah.
to their main film. So there's just only so much, you have a wedding day, then you make their long form film, and you don't want the teaser just to be a shorter version of a long form film. You want it to be something entirely different. So first of all, you get to have some fun with that edit, and secondly, they feel like they're getting more value because they're getting a separate, that this video is a total separate entity from their main film, because their main film is of course much longer, drawn out, has toasts in it, and with the first kiss and the wedding vows. It's a whole different film. So doing something like this it's just fun, and that's probably the most Foley I've put into a video like that in a while.
Yeah, that one does. That's why I used that one and chose that one, because I did remember you. I don't know, you just really pushed it for that one. And it was fun. It was just a totally different experience because I do remember they had a lot of beautiful vows and everything too. So it was like just something totally different. So I want to talk about your pre-wedding audio prep. So before the wedding, you need to get started talking with the couple about your audio
This is before the wedding day.
before the wedding day even gets there. So we always like to tell them, like during our consultation with the couple, listen, tell your best man, maid of honor, parents, like we have seen every type of toast imaginable. Please ask them to take this seriously, because whenever couples are whenever we are charging quite a bit of money for a couple, we want to make sure that we can do the best job that we can for them. And doing that is partly collecting assets, and that is using what everyone during the wedding day says to help build the film. And so if we come away with just like a, oh, we known each other for 5 years and he's
Remember
my
that
best
time we
friend.
went to that bar and you fell over drunk and puked in the street?
We've heard all of those things and worse, believe me. So we always like to start with educating our couple, making sure that they know and that they know that we want to capture everything too. So say like it is very common, I don't know. I mean, we don't do it much anymore. I don't know if other people still do because it's kind of like we just kind of got out of the habit of doing it, but like recording letters to recording the letters at the wedding day when
Yeah,
the couple
in this area,
exchange letters,
it's
and it was
not-
just
it's not very prevalent in this area. It's
Yeah.
something, and when we asked them to do it, sometimes they would do it kind of begrudgingly, but we wanted it to have those assets for our film, and it did, because it was forced, didn't
It
play out right.
sounded forced.
Yeah.
But one time we had this woman who was the mother of the bride, and she says, I have a poem I want to read for my daughter.
Oh my God.
And we were like,
yes.
oh great. No, first we were like,
Yeah.
uh-oh.
Yeah, like, oh, this is gonna
And so
be
we're
great.
like, okay, so we're gonna get her all the way ready because we want her to look her best. And we didn't know what was coming. And she had made this poem, and she's also a public speaker, so she could deliver it. I got the chills thinking about it. I swear that poem was so beautiful.
So much love emanated from that.
It was so amazing. The whole first half,
Did she
half.
put it on like she framed it or something?
Yeah, it was framed.
And then all we did is we stood her next to a window with some drapes behind her and just turned off all the lights in the room. Just a little bit of light coming over her face and and we were like, okay, let's get it over
Get
with.
this over with.
And then when it was done, Amber and I were like,
I love my mom.
for real, it was so good. And that drove the entire narrative of the whole film. It was
At least
just,
the first act for
Oh
sure.
my
It
God,
was
it
beautiful.
was
And it was just
gorgeous.
talking about how, when she was a baby and then her hopes and dreams for her daughter and her daughter's partner in life. And it was just so beautiful. So, those are the type of things that if you educate your couple, even letting them know I can capture things like that, it really helps you in the long run. Because, some people, I don't get anything. Well, we've been there too. So you just have to make it work.
And by educating your couple and calling them ahead of time. I don't mean like a week, like
Right.
way ahead of time, so that
Sometimes
they
even
have-
on the initial consult.
Right.
No, on the initial consult, I start talking about it.
doing things like what Amber's talking about is setting yourself up for success. Because yeah, you can't just show up on the day of and cross your fingers and hope something works. And maybe it will. A lot of times it does because it's a loving day, but sometimes it doesn't. And by doing these little tips like educating your couple, you are giving yourself a higher percentage rate of success and a higher percentage rate of having phenomenal assets to capture.
The other thing you need to do is communicate with your vendors. So that mainly meaning the band or DJ or whoever's in charge of the audio at that venue. Like at the Roof, that venue is interesting because they use the house speakers, the house PA. And so Garrett has to know the venue, the guy who runs the sound at the venue. But generally it's Garrett, that's Garrett's job because so usually whenever we're doing setup of all of like the audio stuff, Garrett, I'm filming other things while he's getting that. So do you want to talk about speaking with the DJ and maybe but even before the wedding?
Right. So the best I haven't really called or talked to did a pre-wedding consultation in a while because most of the DJs and venues we worked at there a bunch of times. They know me, I know them. It's no big deal. But if you can reach out and just reach out and just touch base with them before the day of, so they know that you're a level-headed. You know what you're doing. Even if you don't, make sure they know what you're doing. they think
you know what you're doing.
Right. But
they know what they're doing if they're watching this.
Exactly. Yeah. But back in the day, having a line out for a videographer or filmmaker wasn't really a thing. Like it was like, well, I guess I don't know if I can do this right now. And so it used to be a big deal. Now, most wedding DJs, wedding sound engineers or venue sound engineers, they almost always have a line out ready to go. So that's helpful in itself.
Mhm.
But when you go to initially approach the person running sound, one of the tips that I think really helps you start off on the right foot is you walk up to them, shake their hand, tell them who you are, and then ask the question, are you tonight's sound engineer? Because that lets them know you respect what they're doing. Don't walk up to them and say, are you the DJ? Are you the sound guy? By saying you're the sound engineer, that lets them know you respect what they're doing and you acknowledge it as a real a craft. And that always gets me off on the right foot, because I mean, they have a whole craft. I mean, they have a lot going on. So by just showing them respect and honor, it really goes a long way in the long run.
We forget how hard live event stuff is. Like just the live event sound is difficult. You know, just like live event video is hard. You know, like if you're broadcasting. So we have to remember that. And then another thing is identify potential challenges. So what I mean by that is if you have a beach wedding, or if your ceremony is next to a fountain that's really loud, or one time we had a ceremony and the fields had just been taken down and it was really
Really windy.
windy. And so we couldn't hardly capture any audio that day.
Or if you're an outdoor wedding in Indiana and there's cicadas everywhere.
Yeah, that has happened before. So making sure that you can identify potential challenges even before the wedding day will allow you to have the correct gear with you to help. Like, hopefully you already have it already with you. We always try to, but at least you know it's going to get you thinking about what you can do. Like again, like if you know that it's going to be a beach wedding, maybe you should record their vows inside just separately. So those are the type of things that you can do. We're going to talk about capture devices. There's a whole slew of recording devices. I know there's a new one by
Everybody has
Rode.
one.
Everyone
Zoom
has
one.
them.
Tascam
Zoom.
has one.
So we love our Tascams, and we talk about these just because we have used these for a very long time. It's the DR10L and the DR10X. And so the L stands for lav, and the X stands for XLR, and that's simple as that. So they come with a little clip on the back. At one point, Garrett had glued magnets to the back of this. It's solid state internal recording. It's not broadcasting anywhere, so it won't mess up anyone else's audio sources. We use this as the lav for like the officiant and the groom.
Yep.
And then Garrett also will use it as a backup, which you'll see on the screen right here. You see that picture?
Yeah, I'm very
Yeah.
paranoid. Like, audio is like, you got one chance. And so one thing I like about these is it'll record whatever level you set it at, and then it will also have another recording underneath it. It's like about, I think 10 decibels lower.
8 or 10, yeah. I think so.
So if it peaks, if somebody laughs or claps real loud or something, and it peaks, you have the other track to go to. Now the new ones, they have the 32-bit 32-bit floating, which I don't have one, so I've never actually used one, but I've heard a lot of good things about that.
Right.
That it's kind of like fire and forget, and you don't have to worry about clipping as near as much. But these have been, only reason why I haven't got the new one is because these work perfectly fine,
work.
and I absolutely love them. That's we've had that one for a long
A
time.
very long time. I mean, we have a YouTube video about it on our abandoned YouTube channel. And these are screw-in. We like the screw-in,
that's
so
the
it doesn't.
Sennheiser type.
Sennheiser type screw-in. These are Aspen mics. I mean, there's a million different mics out there too. Not necessarily. These are just the ones we use because we have them. So that's another thing. Like, I just want to mention this very quickly. You don't have to always have the newest gear.
Right.
Like, if what you have still works wonderfully, you don't have to get the newest, latest, greatest. But we have several of these, and we just kind of use them as needed, like during the podium, like a Catholic church.
Yeah,
or
podium on the
wrap it around, just things like that. Like I feel like those are simple, that because we've done them for so long, but maybe not. Maybe we should help. So if a lectern has like a, what's it called, a gooseneck mic, we just wrap this around.
Yep, and it has a little alligator clip, like normally goes on the lapel, but I'll just
Lapel.
clip it to the gooseneck, or sometimes there's like a little foam piece. And
Mhm.
I'll clip it to that, and it works absolutely great.
Yeah, the next thing on the list is the shotgun mic, which we're actually using. We use that for interviews during like non-wedding related things. Then another thing that you definitely need to have in your kit is moleskin. Now, I actually buy this a lot for shoes, and it's good to have in your kit really just for your feet or anything that rubs. But moleskin is good to have, and you put it around your lav. You can hide it. You can
And also,
that way you can hide your lav in clothes.
right, and if you really want to hide the lab, one of the things that the moleskin's for is you make like a barrier so that the head of the microphone isn't touching anything. So that even if it's under under a lapel or something, or you're trying to hide it underneath a tie, by making a barrier around it, and so it has like air all the way around it, you're not going to get that rustle and that from something. So that's really good to have. And then if you are on the beach, I mean, we've done several beach weddings, and we definitely always like them. One thing that is paramount to have is what Amber has in her hand is that little
Rycoat.
it's dead cat, or whatever you want to call it.
Yes, this one's a little baby dead cat for your lav.
For most weddings, I'm not real concerned about people seeing the lav, because I can.
We try to keep it like under or around the
Real-
boutonniere, so it's kind of hidden a little bit. Like we're
Yep.
not putting it like right in the middle, like trying to make it unobscure, or trying to make it
Right.
unobtrusive. I mean, we've even kind of like fixed the mic that like a venue has put on the
Yeah.
groom before because they didn't do a very good job. So
But before we go too far, you talked about these not being wireless. Like, Garrett, why would you use these as opposed to like wireless that goes straight into the camera? Because when we use these, when we come back from a wedding, we have to then sync these in post, which is a no. It used to be kind of a pain. Nowadays, it's a no-brainer. There's software out there. Most editing software that you like, Final Cut or Premiere or whatever, it'll do it automatically, so you really don't have to worry about it. But one thing I like about it not being wireless is you don't have to worry about any channel interference. You don't have to worry about whether or not, if you're way in the back and people stand up, and then there's all these bags of water basically between you and your microphone that's going to interfere. I don't have to worry about that at all, because I know this is recording to itself. And even if let's say I was using wireless.
we
And
have in the past, like whenever we started out,
with
we
the really nice
the
analyzer
nicer
stuff.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, so I've heard the argument like, well, I can't monitor my audio. Well, once you know your gear and once you know how it works, you don't need to, because you know the environment you're in and you know what setting you had to set it on to capture it perfectly. And if I'm monitoring my groom's audio during the vows and they're static, what are you going to do about it? I mean, there's not much.
You're gonna probably just get irritated and be super frustrated by the end of the ceremony.
Yeah, there's not a lot of options on how to fix it other than like move yourself around or get closer. So these solid state recorders have worked just brilliantly for us.
Mm-hmm. And then the last thing we have on the list is the Ursa thigh strap. I think you can get these at B&H too. I wanted to bring these up because like if you have two brides or an officiant who maybe is wearing a dress, these can just be put them around their knee. You don't have to go up their thigh. They're called thigh strap, but just put them around their knee. They're just like an ace bandage. Like you can get the ace bandage kind too. Like that's totally fine, but I just think these look nice, and they have a specific spot for
Yeah, a little pocket.
a little pocket that
We've also
yeah.
we've also clipped it to like and this is a little more difficult because depending on the type of bra the bride is wearing, but we've clipped it to like underneath the bra on the back, things like that. So you obviously you don't want to see that. And in that case, we have white microphones and cables, so that when you're on the bride and you are micing it up, and a lot of times the mic will just sit right here. It's a really easy place to hide, and then the dress kind of just barely covers it. Works really, really well.
So what we would do is we would basically run the lav up the dress. And so like if you are not comfortable, or if the woman is not comfortable with you doing that, if you're a man or a woman, like if the person that you're miking up isn't comfortable with that, just have a bridesmaid do it. It's not that difficult, so just have them, run the lav up, and then you can plug it into the recorder after they're done. So
Yep.
this also has like not like silicone on the inside, so
Right,
it's not
so
gonna
it's-
slip down.
Right.
So this is really handy. Or like sometimes if you have a beach wedding and you want to just try to capture all like the officiant, and if it's a bride and groom, you can. I mean, people do that. We've done 600 weddings and maybe have mic'd a handful of brides, a couple on the beach, 2 dresses, but
And-
that's the
and
only reason I would ever mic a bride, is if there were 2 brides or on the beach, or
Because inevitably, when they're standing in
Yeah.
I call it the holy triangle, the holy trinity, is you have this triangle, and it's the minister or the officiant has a mic, and the groom has a mic. And when they're doing their vows, they're not talking like this and talking, I love you and I'm so happy to be here. They're like, "Oh, no, no, no." So they're gonna be closer together anyways. So it's a really close little tiny spot. And so sometimes she'll pull out her vows and read them. She's looking down anyways, which when she turns her head down, it points her voice right at the lapel mic. And if for some reason his mic isn't picking it up, then your backup is the minister, which is right over there. And on one occasion, I didn't mic the bride, and it was really windy outside. And on the wedding day, I already knew, like, there's no way I have her audio. I just knew it. And so I said, hey, would you mind giving me 5 minutes to read your vows? Let me re-record them. And we actually sat in. She got in my car, and I just clipped the microphone, hung it down from the visor, and she just sat in there and read it. And then when I edited that later, I just added a little bit of background noise, a little ambient noise that was already there, and it was a little hard to match perfectly her words to her mouth, but I finally got it. I think I had to either speed her voice up, or slow it down just a little bit, and it matched perfectly, and it worked out great.
I forgot I had a couple of pictures of the moleskin. Sometimes you've done it like that before. You've done it like, it's all just kind of a trial and error, unfortunately. So you need to try different methods of using moleskin or things to dampen sound on your own time.
And it's different for different
No,
mics.
it is different for different mics.
This mic, I think it's called a matchstick mic. It's
Yeah.
very small. These,
The
these
very
are,
small one, hold on, it was extra sensitive though.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so we ended up not using those anymore because we were getting too much noise. Here is you can see it here, the DR10 or the Rode shotgun mic, and then at the end of that is this DR10X will just plug right into the back of the Rode shotgun mic, and that's how we use it as a shotgun recorder.
Right.
So that's really cool.
And it has a couple different modes, and I'm sure if you look it up on YouTube, but there's the mic mode and the line mode. So the mic mode is for when you're using a microphone, self-explanatory. And then when you're plugging it into like a board output, the board output is of course going to be a lot hotter for this than the microphone is. So you switch it to there's a setting called it's called EXT, which stands for external. And that lets this recorder know you're plugging into a board, and just always make sure that you talk to your sound engineer and you get your levels right before the night starts, and you'll be fine. And again, the 32-bit floating, I've heard so many good things about it. I probably will, maybe next year I'll upgrade to it, but for now, these were great.
Yep. All right, and then these Sony large diaphragm headphones are like they're standard in the audio community. Pretty much anytime you watch any sound engineer that's like mixing sound
A
on
lot of times.
like on boards and stuff, you'll see these in movies. These are the headphones that everyone uses for a reason. Garrett uses these as reference monitors whenever he's editing. So, and do you use them on the road? You don't use these on the road.
I use them when we're doing interview sessions.
Oh, that's what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah,
Yes, because it
And
blocks.
they're So I did a lot of, like everything, when I buy something, I do a lot of research, and I kept running into these sound engineers saying that these are the best sounding headphones you can get without spending an extraordinarily more amount of money. And I think I think they're under $100,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so this is a great investment.
Because
If you're a pro, you need to be using
you don't
something
want
like
Beats
this.
by Dre. You don't want some headphones that have awesome highs and awesome bass. You want a monitor reference headphones so that you can monitor what you're getting, and it's not boosted in like the bass and the trebles or whatever.
So you're using that to, like, you like to use those when you're editing to edit dialogue.
Right.
Like anything that's very like particular is what he likes this. Oh,
Yep.
wrong way. Okay, no, I didn't. I just had that one twice. Okay, so capturing the day. We've kind of talked about mic placement already, like where we put them. So that's already done.
Well, something we just didn't talk about is that
Oh.
if I have, I think I have 6 of these. So,
Yeah.
and one thing I like about them is that they're so stinking small. And so I can have these and I can place them, I'm trying to think of an instance where like, okay, one, amazing ceremony, there was a mariachi band and I can't like the whole band
Or
individually.
like an 8-piece mariachi.
Yeah. So, I knew where they were going to be performing. And so I was able just to kind of like, I do this a lot and just roll it up, start recording, and then I roll it up and then I'll clip it and then I'll just sit it next on I think I set it next to on one of the ledges where I knew they were going to be, and it did a great job of it's not a studio recording, but it sounded better than I thought actually being there. It was so close.
I mean, and that is part of it too. Like part of this is like capturing ambient sound, so that is another way you can capture ambient sound. So one thing like we were talking about earlier, the cicadas,
Mhm.
so one thing that you could do, like sometimes you have to use those things in your film to make it make sense. So if you're going to hear cicadas later in the film, like during the ceremony, then maybe start the film out with it, things like that. That's an interesting, so that's capturing ambient sound in places to add in later is a way to really help your sound effects library. Like you just use, we're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
Um,
Like about the removal, like if I wanted to remove
Yeah.
the cicadas,
Yeah.
we're talking, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
we're gonna talk about all that in a minute. I'm
Okay.
trying to get through this front part. And then we always have a backup recording. So
Oh,
here.
by the way, I never patch into the churches, or the like wherever they're gonna get married. If it's like a big Catholic church, I don't even bother patching in because I know my equipment and I know mine works. And so if I patch into the board, I'm not quite sure and sometimes, especially the Catholic churches here, their boards are just set and they're locked. Like there's nobody there running them. There's no way to get into it. The door that on the front of the board is just totally locked. You can't get into it. So I just kind of stopped trying, but I know my mics work, but I'm not sure if maybe their system has a buzz in it. And that ceremony is so important to get a good, solid recording, even more so than the reception. So I just use my own mics.
It's very valid. All right, so we're gonna clean up. So now that we've captured and we have clean captures from all the sources, there, the revolution was the Adobe Audition, right? Is that what it's called?
It's called the Adobe Podcast.
I messed it up.
And that's fine. She doesn't use it, so
I don't use it. This is all, so in our
Adobe Audition is
partnership,
great, by the way, but yeah.
this is, I was writing this, I was copying it from another presentation before a podcast came out. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't know if that's the right name. I think that's the right name. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, Isotope RX is one that a lot of people use, and then Adobe Podcast. So why don't you go ahead and this is your slide.
Okay, yeah. So Isotope, I used to use that a ton because I called it Photoshop for audio, because you have like if you don't want kids in there crying, maybe during the ceremony somebody cries or drops the something and it echoes real loud. With Isotope, you can it's kind of like Photoshop for audio. So you bring your audio up and it shows you a visualization of the audio and a spectrum of all the frequencies. And you can very easily see when there's like a loud thump or a baby cry. It hits a certain frequency and actually you can visually see it. So that's really cool. And there's actually basically like a remove tool in Photoshop. You can actually just like take your cursor and kind of like select it, and it does a really good job of removing it. Enter into the picture a new addition Adobe has called Adobe Podcast. And if you already have an Adobe account, that means this is probably, I believe, free for you. I have an Adobe a Photoshop Lightroom account, and because I have that, it comes free with it. But it has revolutionized how I think about audio. Like I don't have to worry like, oh no, there's that thing, that noise in the background. There's a refrigerator in the background. Oh, is that going to be, Eric, let's turn the fridges off, turn all the light. I'm not worried about that as much because I know that if I can hear it and when I get to the editing bay, I can easily remove that with using Adobe Podcast. So it's
I fixed it.
extremely, there you go. Perfect. We're done. Good job. So like, there was one instance where we were doing an outdoor wedding, and as you all know, on-camera audio is. I'm not talking about using a shotgun. I'm talking about like the on-camera microphone that's built into the camera is not what you want to use ever.
For any
For
reason.
any reason. It's just there for reference more than anything, right? So we were shooting a wedding, and it was absolutely gorgeous outdoors on this beautiful terrace. And I thought I had all my ducks in a row and I knew everything that was going to happen, but for some reason I was not informed that one of the dads was going to walk over to where the band was. There was like a
String quartet
string
or
quartet,
something.
and he was going to read a poem.
Why
And
did he walk over there too? Like I
I
just
don't
don't know why he did that. Why didn't you just go up through front under the
he
hoop?
was already at the front. He could have
He
stayed
was
there.
already at the front. He was under the hoop already. Why didn't you stay there? I don't know, but he walked over.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were just like,
Oh crap.
uh-oh.
Yeah. So I did not have, like I just said, I did not have anything patched into the system. And in this particular case, normally if I'm doing an outdoor wedding like that, I will put one of these on a stand in front of the speaker just as a fail safe. I don't know why I did not do that this day. So the best audio I had was a lockdown shot that was over probably um, more than 10 feet away, probably pushing 20, literally 20 feet away, somewhere between 15 and 20 feet away from where the dad was giving his poem he was reading. And I was able to bring that in, and I boosted, before I gave it to the Adobe Podcast AI, I cleaned it up as best I could. I boosted the levels as much as I could, and then I handed it over to it's not really an app. It's just it's a website. And I said, here you go. Let's see what happens. And it saved my bacon. It sounded so good. And I was flabbergasted. Now I would never rely on these microphones that are built into the cameras for anything, but in that situation, I was able to use what little information I had, and that Adobe AI just expanded upon that and made a beautiful thing. It's basically you upload your clip and you have a slider. You 100% and you come down from there. If you go up to 100%, then it sounds like the most sultry podcast
Sounds
tones.
like Derek.
Yeah, it sounds like Derek with his, when he had his microphone like right here talking into it. That's what it sounds like. So that's too much. So I normally bring it down. I think I used it just this week, and I think I brought it down to like 60%. And it was just what I needed to clear up some of the background noise. And then I like to add a little bit of ambience. So if they're talking, and in that situation we were outside, and it was during the summer, July 4th. So there were birds chirping, and so I was able to take clips from other parts of the video I had from other cameras, clips of the birds chirping and there's just the leaves kind of blowing, and loop that over top of it just to make it kind of layer it up so it sounded more natural. Because I don't want him to sound like he's in a podcast studio. I want him to sound like what everybody else out there heard, and maybe just a touch better. So it's a great, if you have an Adobe account, and then it's free for you, and it's super, super easy. And speaking of sound, if you hear a dog barking in the background, I'm so sorry. Our pups, think we're talking to invisible people, and so they're trying to protect us. It's Halloween or something. I think there's ghosts in here, so they're in they're in the other end of the house, but he's so loud right now. So
Okay.
sorry about that.
I know it's been getting on my nerves, but it's okay. He's very cute. If you see our Instagram at all, you will see how cute
Yep.
he is. All right, so do you want to talk about digging out the human channel of the human voice?
Nope.
No.
No, I'm done.
That's your job
I'm
as
done.
well. I don't do that as either. So I
Thi-
guess it's competing frequencies you're trying to take out.
Yeah. So when I first started editing, and when I first started introducing the spoken word into my films with music, the first thing I did was I'll just raise the level of the spoken word up here,
The
and
volume.
the volume, right, and then I'll bring down the volume of the audio. That's all there is. That's all there is to it.
So
Yeah.
you're like
Sorry. Yeah.
raising
Raise-
the spoken word audio.
and then bringing down the music so it's low enough you can hear it. But it's like the more I learn, the longer it takes me to edit, because there's so many good things that you can do to help your project, to help your film. And one of them is called carving out your audio. And there's multiple videos on YouTube how to do it. But you can, what I do is if I'm going to carve out the audio, the frequencies, is I'll pull up the person I'm trying to edit, and I'll pull up my visual EQ, and then I'll hit play, and I'll watch the EQ and see where the majority of their frequencies that they're talking, where it nest, like where the majority of it nests. And it's going to be different for different people, depending if they're way up here talking like this, I'm so happy to be here, or maybe an old person, yeah, let's go. It's going to be all over the place. So for each person, I like to find where there's like a little nest of the frequencies that person is using. So what I do is I pull those frequencies up, and then I go down to my music track, and I find those frequencies on the music track, and I pull those frequencies down, which have little to no effect on what the person watching the film hears. But what you're doing is no longer are those two tracks competing for the same frequencies. Your spoken word has their own nest to be in, and the music surrounds it and just kind of like gives it a big hug. So they're not competing. And I don't know how many times have I watched a film, and like they have somebody, especially it's really bad if you use a music track with somebody singing, and then you try to put spoken word of
We
your
don't
groom
do
over
that.
that's a cardinal mistake. Cardinal sin.
That's in here, I think.
You don't want to do that.
Competing audio. That's
Right.
the next slide.
Competing
So
audio.
recorded audio versus music with lyrics. Just don't do it. Most of the music sites that you go to will have two versions
Yeah,
of
those
your song.
have the vocal and then the instrumental version.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I'll download both,
Mhm.
and then when I come to the part where I want to hear the groom or hear whoever, I'll just lay over the instrumental version and fade to that, and then let them talk and say, and then come back in on a crescendo, and then the singer can start singing it again. But carving your audio, it's not a sexy thing to do, but it makes your film so much more enjoyable to watch, because people aren't going, hey, what they saying there? And it just makes it mesh so well.
Well, even yesterday, my best friend and I were listening to an artist in the car, and we were talking about how she had a hard time hearing the vocals of the music track with all the jumble of all the other music this artist uses, because the artist was very it was
It was Dave Matthews Band. Yeah.
well, we were talking about Beyonce.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Also Dave Matthews Band, but it was Beyonce to start with. Yeah, so just download both versions, the music and the lyrics and the instrumental, and you won't have that problem. But a lot of the times also Garrett, whenever he's trying to find music, which I think is one of the next things that I was going to talk about, he tries to find songs that have room for recorded audio anyway. So whenever he's listening, he watches for
Spoken word, yeah.
Spoken word, recorded audio. Yeah, so he tries to find songs that already have maybe lulls in it, so that
So yeah, so if you
It's
download
easier.
both tracks and the song has a lull, even though the artist may be performing and singing, that's a good spot just to cut to the instrumental version and it lulls down and then you have like, oh baby, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. And then when he says his and I'll love you until time ends, and then the crescendo hits and then the chorus starts, and then you go back into the song with the lyrics and it's like, baby, I love, it works out great.
I like that playing it out all like,
Yeah.
who needs to watch a film? We just play it all out.
Yeah, we're just
So we are very big on, I think if you watched any of these films in the past, any of these podcasts, we are very much into keep the client's personality and style in mind. If it's a country wedding, you do not want to use R&B. If it's you just have to keep the client's personality and style in mind, the vibe, as they say.
And you figure that out the day of the wedding. I mean,
Yeah.
you pay attention to what they listen to when they're getting ready. You pay attention to what the songs they have at the reception, and the decor. And you figure it out. Yeah.
Figure it out. We like to say that the music of our film is really helps. It's the emotion of it. It helps to drive the story and the narrative. Like the film that we listened to earlier, that song has an intensity. And I think that's what you were wanting with that to drive.
I think so for our educational things that we do, we should have the moniker, our title for everything be like, hey, you'll figure it out.
Figure it out. That's why we're here.
Hey, you'll figure it out.
That's why we're here.
It'll all work out. Yeah, don't worry about it. It'll be fine.
I mean, and also like literally, I should not have to say this, but please stay legal. Like use music that you're purchasing for films. I shouldn't have to say this in 2024, but
there's a price point for every budget for buying music. I think right now I'm using the most from is Artlist. They're not just music. They have Foley. They have sound effects. They have B-roll. I mean, they have so much on there. They have a good selection of music. There's other ones that are higher priced. That have more music that's more I don't know, like known artists and things like that. But there's a price point out there for everybody. There's even free music out there. YouTube has free music. I don't know if I'd use it for a wedding, but there is definitely stuff out there to stay legal, so you don't have to worry about getting a cease and desist. And we've had a friend in the past that we knew very well who he got fined over $1 million. I don't know what the point was, but it just about destroyed his business. So it's easy to stay legal. Do that.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we have 11 minutes, and we got to talk about sound design.
Okay.
And so this is one of the things that Garrett really likes to do because it's where you can start your creativity. But okay, so we're gonna watch this film all the way through, the way that Garrett edited it, and then we're gonna watch it through, not all the way, but through without the sound effects, so you can kind of see
how much of a
difference
impact it has.
Yeah.
And this is a corporate video, right?
This is a corporate video. I don't have a wedding film that had like this. I think we were doing this at a conference last time. That was wedding and
this is a construction company called Bowen Engineering, not to be confused with Boeing.
Not the planes.
But they are a multi-billion-dollar, one of the largest construction companies in the Midwest. So I put a lot into it because I really wanted to have a great product for them.
And we've been working with them for a very long time too. So they trust our creative vision. But here's the
So this video was more for the internal people and for their website just to show.
Yeah, I know. I think it was to help them get more projects like this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
this one
okay,
is
yeah.
to
'Cause
help
this
them
one,
get more projects like this because
It was
their clients are saying you did so good that it's like an orchestra, some like everything is just so smooth and fluid.
they were replacing
Yeah.
a major part of a major part that's crucial to it was a power plant, one of the biggest power plants in our state. And so all of the sounds that you heard indoors was all Foley. It was so incredibly loud in there that we were required to wear 2 levels of ear protection. We had to do the ear plugs, and then we had to have those big ear cups over our ears. And it was so loud, like the audio that I was able to capture was just a jumble of just metal mess. Like, and you couldn't, what was going on didn't sound like didn't look like what you were hearing because you were just hearing everything. So every piece of audio when we're indoors was crafted by me to accentuate what the person was seeing.
Okay, let me make sure I'm on the right one. It's the second.
And now you're going to show them.
Hold on. That was not the right one.
That's it, yeah. Music's great.
But it's empty.
So empty.
Empty.
I had chatter in here, them talking, gone.
But then the other interesting thing is this is just the sound effects
Okay, without the music.
without the music.
We'll get back to our plan. Now the north side.
The north side's coming down.
Yeah.
We're good. So that's not the sound effects. We did not record that.
That's all music.
Okay. So that's really
You can
cool.
just see how big of a difference it makes. It is so impactful. But again, like every tool, you can take it way too far. So there's like a happy medium that you have to play with and feel comfortable with, so it's not so in your face, but it adds so much.
So, and then another thing is that you have to also think about your sound effects and use them. You can use them creatively. So like things that sounds like, you know, I feel like you say, oh, that's the sound of something that's totally opposite of what you think it should be that you use it for.
And like even the transitions on there, like I would swipes, even like a little. And I have literally when I long time ago when I couldn't afford to buy sound effects, I would literally take one of my recorders and go, and I would make my own whoosh noise and then import it and then adjust it, and it worked. So like you can make it work.
Do though. I mean, I guess like we have a friend in the audio community. He edits dialogue for the Star Wars TV shows, and it's so cute because you'll see him all the time just recording audio in the wild. But one thing I wanted to talk about with the sound effects too is to make sure like your sound effects match the venue. So one sound effect that you use a lot is like cheering or clapping.
Right.
So you need to make sure it matches the venue.
Right.
I mean, literally, like Garrett just uses his heart. Like, does that make sense in this scenario? It's like if it sounds like a stadium, but it's in a tiny little church, it's probably not working.
And also, if you're in a big Catholic church or something that's big and open like a Catholic church, a lot of hard surfaces, when people clap, you're going to get a lot of echo. So the opposite of that is being in like a ballroom in a really nice hotel. It's not going to have that echo bouncing around quite as much. So you don't want to use something that sounds like you're in a big cathedral in a place that's really small and it doesn't sound. You know that that doesn't sound right. So
Mhm.
you have to be, I think I have like a dozen different clapping, and I have some that sounds like there's 300 people there. I have some that sound like 1,000. I have some that sounds like there's 30 people. And so it all just, where you have to choose the right sound to match the environment and not just throw any old clapping sound on there. And I'm sure you'll figure it out. That's our new moniker. We're gonna have shirts and
Use
hats.
heart.
It
Just,
says,
just
"You'll-"
go with your creative heart and
Yeah.
and just use your brain too, really. Okay, so we use sound and all of these things, all of these tools that we've talked about today to emotionally connect with your viewer. That's what it's all about, right? We want an emotional connection with our viewer. So we use the spoken word, we use music, and we use moments to craft these wedding films to make them into something extraordinary. You know, like we've talked about, it's very hard to see the difference between good and great. So if you can take some of these things that we've talked about today and apply them to your film, I think you can go from good to great, because I do see like before and after and how different it feels and how different it grabs the attention of the viewer. So that's kind of what, why audio is so important. It's half the film, is what
Right.
George says.
Another tip
My
is
bestie.
another tip is like when you think you're done, or you think you're approaching being done in your highlight film or whatever film. A lot of times I'll put my headphones on, and I'll close my eyes and I'll listen to the film. And because a lot of the times the visuals will carry the film where the audio lacks. So if I'm just listening and just kind of zoning in on the audio, that really helps me determine what could be worked on just a little bit more. Where could I add the audio just a little bit here? Where am I losing the voice and I can't quite understand what they say because they didn't enunciate? So I need to maybe pull the highs up just a little bit. And just by listening through some studio, if you have monitors, great. I think studio headphones work
Those
better.
things we were talking about.
And you just listen to it, and in your mind's eye you can see those audio clips and see where they come into play, and where they go out, and it really helps you determine if there's anything more that could be worked on to make it just that much better.
Now, one tip is you also don't edit everything with those headphones
No,
on. So you
that's like
just
one
like
of the last things I do.
that's like your finishing. So
Yeah.
he edits with just the normal, like he has studio monitors on his lap, or not his lap, on his computer. He edits through those, and then like one of the final passes, which we'll talk about in a future
Yep.
podcast with you guys. We're so excited about the editing one. That'll be also all Garrett, because I don't do that type of editing, but we'll talk about that as well in there. So I think that's about
Cool.
it. Do you have anything else you want to say about audio, Garrett? I mean, it's
Yeah. One more tip. You'll figure it out.
Oh my gosh. All right. Oh boy, here we
I'm
go.
sorry. That's gonna be my new jam.
That's the best way we can go into Q&A right now is just start answering. You'll figure it out.
You got it.
Just do
You
it.
got it.
Oh man, you know what my favorite part of this is audio. Like when we have audio people on, a lot of times the audio people don't understand photo. So then in trying to get a heavily photo slash video base to understand certain audio things, sometimes it's easier to make analogies that relate to photo, such as ISO and gain. That's always an easy one where it's like turning the volume up and with the gain, you get more noise. It's kind of like bumping your ISO up to get more light sensitivity, yada, yada, yada. So where I'm going with this is I want to seize on something you said, Garrett, that really, really jumped out to me. And it's like, when you were talking about, the podcast mic, and yes, great sound, but it has a very it sounds like you're in a podcast studio. It's not good audio isn't always the right audio. So situationally, is it with audio, is it trying to figure out, like, how do you figure out and deduce what is the best way to record the audio? Do you go into it like with the photo mindset of, hey, get it right in camera, as little post as possible? Or is it like, okay, certain times we're just going to record something clean and we just want to have clean audio, and then we'll dirty it up. We'll do whatever we have to do. We'll add reverb or compression to make it fit our need. Does that make sense? Did that translate?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, my biggest goal on the wedding day is I want I want to get the mic as close as I can to the speaker, and I want the cleanest audio I can get, and with as little amount of background. So these have like for the level settings. I think there's four. It's like low, medium, high, and high. And there's not a lot of like there's not like a knob that you turn. So I use, I think, medium for the groom, and it's different for like I can use medium, but then I can put a different mic on, and it's a total different sound. So I have to either use like the one she was talking about earlier. Those other mics, they're extra sensitive, so I can't use that same setting. So my goal is to get the cleanest audio I can, and then in post, if I need to add some. These microphones, there are better ones. So these, I do have to add a little bit more on the high end in post-production. But I found out quickly, unfortunately, that when you hand these mic packs to people, a lot of times when the ceremony's over, they'll take them off and they treat them poorly. So putting a $200 mic on this, I've lost a few. So this mic is, I think, $50. So it's not the highest end mic, but they take a lot of abuse, and so I don't feel bad about when I lose one. Yes, audio suffers a little bit, but I'm able to clean that up in post, especially if I need to use it, that Adobe Podcast.
There is always a give and take with wedding film. It's like you said, like if we could make it sound like it sounds there while we're there, yeah, that's the goal. But we're only a 2-person team. So you have to separate yourself, and like that's not the most important thing. We're capturing it as cleanly as we can. If we had a whole person for sound, then it would be perfect. But it's kind of like those things when you're running small teams. Like some people get crazy when we say I use autofocus. Well, I don't have a focus puller. So, like if we're going to be a 2-person team, then, instead of trying to get it exactly how it sounded in person, fixing it in post is not a problem for us with that, because it's easier to fix audio in post than it is to fix video in post.
Yeah, and it's saying that we're fixing it in post. Most of the time it doesn't need to be fixed; it just need to be enhanced.
I like enhanced.
So
Yeah.
you can find where those, again, where that little nest of frequencies that the person is nesting in, and you can adjust those and bring it up, bring it down, add some compression, and Bob's your uncle. You have it's for the most part done. Where we have to fix things is like when she was saying, if it's windy outside, if there's a fountain, and a lot of times if there is like a big fountain next to them, that's where they chose to get married. I think removing all fountain noise would be kind of weird. If it was
ban fountains.
And if you're next to the ocean and there's no ocean noises, there's no seagull noises, you take all that out, then that's also weird. So there's a line between where does it become ambience with the film and where it becomes noise. And a lot of that we'll just leave in there because that's where they're at. And even with the cicadas, if you get married in Southern Indiana and it's that time of year and you chose that day, there's cicadas, they're probably not going to be louder than your microphones. They're probably not going to be louder than the person speaking. So I may take a little bit of it out, even using the noise removal tool inside of your editing system. Just turn that slider down just a little bit to remove just a touch of that. I like leaving that in there as part of the film.
And another thing, like we talk about, I'm telling you, Derek, fountains have burned us too many times. But
I'm glad I know this now. I would have never thought. Now I'm putting it
because
down on my list.
They're pretty, they're pretty. So people like, I'll get married by a fountain or a waterfall. And you're like, the sound of roaring water. That's fine. Whatever. But one thing you have to do then in your film is show the viewer the fountain.
Right.
So if you show the viewer the fountain, they say, okay, there's a fountain. I'm going to say there's water there. I hear it. I see it. I hear it. It's
Capture
fine.
some beautiful B-roll.
So you just have to show them what's there too. So if there's like, if there's a jackhammer in the back of it, show the freaking jackhammer. And then your viewer will be like, okay, well, there was a jackhammer at the wedding. I feel like we've probably seen that before.
I don't know if we've seen that at a wedding.
Well, I mean, it's something,
Yeah.
But it's like, if it's something that is a little bit, maybe could be distracting if you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
show the viewer,
like
and then
a
it gives,
storm, like
it
the one-
gives, yes,
yeah.
the storm, it
Yeah.
gives you a pass. Yeah, it gives you a pass. So that's another tip that we have, but
If you're out there and you've ever had a jackhammer in wedding photos you've shot, please send them to derekf@bhphoto.com. We'd love to see them.
I
I'll
wanna
forward
push
it on
them.
to Amber and Garrett.
Thank you. I'll put it on my
It's had
next.
to have happened
Yes,
somewhere.
I'm telling you, it has been there. I know. There's just things that I know.
That's awesome.
But
So-
you know, you just never know about a wedding. You just never
Another, I have
know.
another photo analogy.
Oh,
Are we treating obviously it's what I'm gathering from you guys is the audio that we're getting from the bride and groom is that's it. That's what you want. That's what you can't fake it. You can't find it on a cheesy stock photo or a stock music website. Are we treating that like exposing for the highlights where it's like you need that I'm exposing for I need the person's skin to look good. Everything else I can kind of work with. I can find Foley sounds of a fountain and add that in over B-roll if I really need to. But I really need to prioritize what is being said by the bride and the groom and whoever else is involved.
That is a very good analogy because yeah, it's like if once those highlights are gone, you're up a creek, so to speak. And if you don't get that audio or if it's over modulated and it's peaking all the time, some of it you can bring back, but yeah, you're gonna be having a real interesting phone call with your client.
that is a perfect analogy.
yeah.
It really is. If you let it's basically the same thing. It's like too much light or too much sound. You know, it's like it's too much is not recoverable. So
And that's why one thing I like about these recorders, which I don't think you have to worry about so much with the 32-bit. I think that, and again, I've never used the 32-bit floating recorders, but from what I understand is it records so much data that you don't have to worry nearly you don't have to worry nearly as much about blowing out those highlights like you were speaking in your analogy because it records so much data that you get pretty much everything. But with these not being 32 floating bit, the fact that it records whatever level you set it at, and then it records a total separate track of something, another track that I think it's 10 decibels lower. So it increases your chances of success in case something does go crazy. But again, it's all about knowing your equipment. With that camera, where your highlights are going to clip, when they're going to blow out, and the more you get to know your equipment, the more comfortable you are, and you can you master your equipment and know how to use it, and you don't have to worry about it as much or at all.
Yeah, that 32-bit float, that really does. That actually eliminates the next question, which is, you have a groom who yells constantly and you have a very soft-spoken bride, or the reverse. Or you have two grooms and both of them yell and everyone else in the wedding talks quiet, or you can mix and match. So I'm guessing the 32-bit, the float takes care of that. Yay, technology.
Yeah.
Is there any other situations that somebody should be aware of where they're not used to shooting video in a wedding scenario? Is there any other situations that you guys can think of that just jump out to you that are like, this is always a tough one, always a tricky one, be ready for it?
Real quick before I forget, I would have another analogy that recording with this is like shooting JPEG, and you have to kind of nail your exposure, where the 32 float is shooting raw.
I love photo analogies hit so
Yeah.
well with me. It makes
That's
me
a good
understand
one.
audio that much better.
that's a good one.
You're saved.
What was your last question? Because I just got.
Yeah, sorry. If I didn't say it, I did.
You steamrolled. Is there anything that jumps out to you guys that's like,
Yeah.
you're
Okay,
going to run into this, it's going to be an issue, you're going to freak out on the spot, prepare for it? Is there anything that jumps out that is like a really, I'm sure we can all think of something easily with lighting. It's like you have the darker skinned groom in a darker suit with the fair skinned bride in a white dress. How do you account for that? Is there that version of the audio where it's like you're in a conundrum? How do you handle it?
I feel like, I mean, at one time we had a groom, or not a groom. So we also record like this reception toast, and so we had let's see, father of a bride who's a public figure, celebrity, and he likes to yell a lot. And so like he was
He's
giving,
like an Italian guy that
he's known for yelling, like
Yeah.
he's shuts bars down and yells at him. You know, we'll just say that. And he kind of gave his reception toast like that. So we stood no chance, you know, and so we were like hoping, and I don't even think, I mean, this was definitely before the days of Adobe Podcast, so I don't even
I
remember what you
know.
did. But at that point, like, that bride knows her dad, and she knew he was gonna yell, and I'm pretty sure it did overmodulate a couple times on that one,
Yeah,
but
it definitely
there
cut
was
our
nothing
cord.
we could have done.
But with that, I think the way I set this was useless.
Mhm.
And so the track underneath it is what saved us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
And I think there was, even on that track, I think there was still some spots that just clipped. But using the isotope program, you can recover some of that clipping. And I think I had to spend a lot of time in post going through those clips and repairing
Yeah.
them. They thought it was great. Once you watch the video, you couldn't tell anything.
Yeah.
And
I also like trust your gut too, because you know, we've come to a reception, and like we can tell that the handheld, like the microphone that they're going to use for the toast is probably like $50 from Walmart. Like, we have in the past mic'd up the the maid of honor, best
everybody,
man,
yeah.
anyone who was giving a toast, we mic'd up separately, because we knew we couldn't count on that. So trust your gut. And that took so much more time, and we hate it, and we never want to do that again. But occasionally that is something you will run into, where you have to go and mic up every person at the reception that's going to be speaking as well. So that's something that takes a little more time, and maybe that'll you'll like sacrifice some clips that you really wanted to get the audio. But you know, dad's toast is way more important than a hero shot of the cake. It's like, it's really just a back and forth,
You gotta choose your
and
battles.
you do have to really just choose your battles.
Another tip, and I'll give you another comparison to photography, is you don't want to use, you're gonna want to, and I did when I first started, you don't want to use auto gain or auto leveling on your recorders, because the whole time when you go back to edit, when somebody stops talking or gets quiet, the gain's gonna turn up and the noise floor is gonna get higher and higher and higher. And then when somebody talks, it's gonna clip, and then it's going to come back down, and you're going to be fighting that during your whole edit. And I akin that to like maybe shooting a family session portrait outside, and you're doing it over an hour's time, and you did the whole thing on auto white balance. You're going to have to go back and make all of those images look like they had the same white balance and match the same white balance across all the images. And that's just extra work that you don't need to do. So it's going to be tempting, but don't use auto level. Just get to know your gear, test it, and you're going to be way better off, and your project's going to sound a lot better.
That is a great one. I'm going to sneak in two final quick hitter questions.
Sure.
Is there an ideal decibel level that you should aim for? I always aim for, I think I aim for about -10 decibels. And number two, redundancy. How much redundancy?
So the decibel level, none of these have any kind of setting for decibels.
You mean like on the edit or on the capture, Derek?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. That's yes. When on the edit, is there like is there like, because I feel like that can get tricky too, where some stuff is louder, and it's like, do you put clipping on? How far do you go? Do you want everything the same level, or do you want, like when you're watching a movie and everything? My wife yells at me at least twice a week for the movie's at a nice level, and then the commercial comes on and it's blaring. It's like, turn the
Yes.
TV down. It's like,
Yes.
I can
Let me
feel
look
her
at
looking
something
at
real
me.
quick. What I do not like everything. I do not like, to answer that question, I do not like everything to be level all the way across. Some TVs have that feature you can turn on, because I want, just like the visuals are a roller coaster, I want the audio to be a roller coaster. Probably, I love redlining the reception. So everything leading up to the reception is I can't think of where it's at right now. But I like the reception party to be the loudest. So I'll redline that. So as they get to the reception, the most exciting, the dancing, that's way up top. Like it's not hitting the red, but just about.
But sometimes it's really good to be able to like almost lean in to
Right.
like really pay attention to what someone's saying, you
Yeah,
know?
so you
So it's
bring
like,
bring down the volume. So my audio
Mm.
edit is kind of like up, down, up, and exciting, and down. I mean, it's really all over the place because yeah, there are some like a good horror movie that right before something scary happens, what happens? Everything gets quiet, and then
Yeah.
rah, it just jumps out at you. And I like right when they are pronounced husband and wife is the music is most time edits the music's gone, especially if it's a longer form edit. So I fade the music out and they're pronounced man and wife, and then as soon as they like right as they come together and kiss, bam, the music stuff starts back up and brings that energy back. So there's kind of a lull. It makes the viewer kind of lean in like what's going on, and then boom, we come back out.
so Garrett uses that as a storytelling technique, is
Yeah.
what I'm hearing. So you use your audio, the actual level as a storytelling technique.
I can't remember off the top of my head where I just keep
Put
it.
it in the comments.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Was there a second question? I can't remember. No,
Redundancy. How much redundancy do we need?
So yeah, so we always at least try to have one of these. We attach it to a light stand, and we usually put the light stand or something just next to a speaker. So that's our backup at like a reception or even during the ceremony, because if all else fails, the line out from the DJ booth, they're not listening to that. They don't care.
Yeah,
The
we're not
sound
even-
engineer, nobody's listening to that. But that live
the
speaker,
analog loophole. Yeah.
they are going to make sure that that works. So if someone's giving a toast and that mic goes out, then they're going to make sure it works. So our backup, our redundancy is always just one of these hanging out in front of a speaker at the ceremony, at the reception, anywhere. That's like literally what we do, and that's one of the easiest like fail safe ways for us.
I love that. I never would have thought about that. That's
Yeah.
something that
Yeah,
it
so,
takes
like,
somebody who knows and who has been there to know
yeah.
what can
At
go
one
wrong.
point, Garrett, I can see it. He had like magnets glued to the back of this, and I think at one point he even just would like magnet it to their.
To the speaker.
To their
band, yeah.
speaker?
But then we changed mics, and the
Oh,
new,
you changed the mic.
the new mics couldn't handle the sound pressure levels.
Oh, gotcha. So then we just kind of put it away from it. Sometimes it'll just be like sitting on the stage next to the speaker, for a band. So, or, because if they're piping the mics through the band. So that's the redundancy.
Very, very rare that I have to use the backup. Like,
Mm-mm.
I actually, I can't, I'm sure I have had to use it before, but as of, usually the mics just work, like they're intended to.
Yep. And then that was the other reason why we don't use expensive mics, is because, like over time they get bent and stuff and crumble.
Yeah.
So you do need to make sure like you're listening to your audio in between each shoot, because if you start you're hearing a crackle and then you're like and you don't, like if you have a backlog and you're not really listening to it very well,
Yeah,
in between offloads,
because eventually these little
the connections.
will start
Yeah.
to fray or whatever.
So
Yeah.
that's just from experience too.
And the easiest thing to make sure you're getting audio is when you first turn these on, and I'm sure it's this way with all of them, is that there's a meter that pops up and I just do mic check 1 2 mic check, and we'll make sure the meter's running.
Another trip.
Oh
Trick?
yeah, this is great.
Oh my gosh, this is the silliest
This is
trick.
the
This
good
is
one.
okay. This should probably be the last trick, or else this is so simple. Whenever we'll say, oh, what is today? Okay, so we'll say as soon as we turn it on and start recording, check. It is October 28th, and this is Garrett the groom's mic.
So
That's it.
Wow.
So simple.
So when you're importing it and you're going through, if you have,
This is
a
October
dozen audio
28th.
clips, you know
This
exactly
is the
what it was
minister's
for.
mic. This is the
podium
bride's
mic.
mic.
This
This is
is-
the podium mic. This is
That's
clip
awesome. I didn't think of
72.
that.
Literally right at the beginning.
It's almost like the
Tell us how we
the
know that.
clapboard,
How do we know that? Because we've been there
Slate.
before.
It's like you're slating your
Yeah,
audio.
you're like, trying to like, whose mic is this? Whenever I'm listening, after you're offloading 6 of these, whose mic is this?
Mhm.
So that's another tip.
Yeah, and I can imagine there's a lot of close proximity at weddings. So there's times when you're
Yes.
And when you're listening to audio over and
Yep.
over, and you've been
Yep.
editing for 3 days straight,
Yeah.
and it's like, wait, is this part?
Yeah.
Why does this sound silent? Oh, because it's picking up this. Or
Exactly.
makes
So
sense.
just give yourself notes. Like,
Yeah.
because we do this we say this from experience, but give yourself notes for sure. So
Awesome. Wonderful last tip. You weren't lying, Amber. That's a great last tip to end
Yeah,
on. I want
I
to thank you
totally
guys
forgot.
I know,
for
I can't believe we forgot.
look,
Okay.
hey, whatever gets it out. I could have sat here for another hour, honestly, and asked little questions here and there. Because I think with audio, it's all the little situational things and like
Sure.
everything else wedding related, there's no room for error. It's not like, oh, hey, I screw up a little shoot that I'm doing with a buddy of mine, and
Right.
Mhm.
hey, you free next Saturday? Let's reshoot this.
Yeah.
No. So
Nope.
gotta rely on you guys. You guys have been there so that we don't make the mistakes. That's what we try to do here. We try to educate. Another word for education is learning from the mistakes and experience of
You'll
others.
figure it out.
You'll figure it. Garrett, that's got to be your new tagline.
I think so.
Not for we want to keep
I love
educating
it.
people, Garrett.
We'll add in a part 11. You'll figure it out. There we go.
Yeah.
Well, Amber, Garrett, always great having you guys on. You guys always bring such wonderful energy to the platform. So huge thank you to you. And of course, Sony for hosting and all of our viewers out there. I hope you guys got as much out of this as I did, because I know I got a lot of information out of it. So huge thank you to the team here. And that is it. It's all we got for you today. Another edition of the B&H Event Space now in the books. Catch y'all next time.